From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Amarachi Ubani.
Tonight, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says Nigeria's challenges will not overturn its vision to become great as the country begins activities marking its 61st independence anniversary. 10 more students of Bethel Baptist Secondary School, Kadun, regained freedom after spending 86 days in captivity. Channels Media Group signs landmark memorandum of understanding with United Nations World Tourism Organization. And Germans await final election result to choose successor to Europe's longest-serving leader, Chancellor Angela Merkel. We begin in Abuja as Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo observes that even though there are currently security, economic, religious and ethnic challenges, the collective vision of a united, peaceful and prosperous Nigeria, where righteousness abounds, still abides. This was a summation of his remarks at the 61st Independence Anniversary Interdenominational Church Service and the 45th Anniversary Service of the Christian Association of Nigeria, which held at the National Ecumenical Center in Abuja today. Tagged Together, Come Let Us Build, the event was attended by several dignitaries, especially representatives of the National Assembly, the Judiciary, and members of the Federal Executive Council, including the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa. There are also religious leaders, including the General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Pastor E.A. Adeboye, CAN's President, Reverend Shupo Ayokunle, among others.
The vision is not destroyed because of the many trials and tribulations, nor is the vision denied by the days when the fig tree does not blossom, or when there is no fruit on the vines, nor is the vision nullified when the labor of the olive fails. Neither is the vision defeated because the flock is cut off from the fold, leaving no herd in the stall. The Lord our God, our strength, he will yet make our feet like the feet of the deer. And we who had been in the valley, he will make us walk on the high hills. Neither hailstones nor hellfire can destroy the vision, because the creator of the universe is the visioner. The one who gave the vision is the Lord of dreams. And indeed, even after we have suffered for a while, this God of all grace, who called us to his eternal glory by Christ Jesus, will perfect, establish, strengthen, and settle us. So our current trials cannot draw the curtains on our story, because the vision is for an appointed time. So our today is not our tomorrow, because the vision is for an appointed time. And because this country is greater than the sum of its parts and the sum of its mistakes, and because the God we serve is greater than the sum of our collective hopes and imaginations, our nation will surmount our current travails and emerge in victory.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, he had more to say at an earlier dinner and an award dinner organized to mark the 45th anniversary of the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN. The Vice President says justice and equity are necessary for peace and security in Nigeria. Our State House correspondent Kayla Megwa has more.
The Christian Association of Nigeria is celebrating its 45 years in existence, and as with most events these days, issues of national security and federal character take center stage.
The issue of lopsided appointment is part of what is fueling agitation for secession in the country. And fairness in all appointments are to be the principle of appointing people into offices in order for the nation to be one and to rest.
The focus turns to the need to renovate the National Christian Center. And since the former Imo State Governor Rochas Okorocha chaired the fundraising drive for its construction during the Obasanjo administration, they're hoping he can do the same for its renovation.
For as long as the Christian Center in Abuja is not right, no matter our individual churches, it does not portray a good image for the Christian. So it's a must-do.
The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, called on clerics to pursue a more united and peaceful society by always preaching fairness and equity.
Brethren, the answer to hate and intolerance and conflict is the gospel of Jesus Christ. We must believe enough. We must believe enough in the gospel of Jesus Christ to make it our article of faith in our interactions with people of other faiths. Congratulations.
A plethora of awards are presented to guests, including an Excellence in Governance Award presented to the Vice President, the Young Christian Achievers Award presented to Leah Sharibu, who is still in Boko Haram captivity, and a Special Recognition Award for Imam Abubakar Abdullahi, who saved over 200 Christians in Barki Ladi local government area of Plateau State during a religious attack.
10 more abducted students of Bethel Baptist Secondary School in Kaduna State have regained their freedom. This is the fourth batch of students released so far by the abductors. The police are yet to confirm the developments, but a top official of the school told Channels Television that the 10 students were released this afternoon after an unspecified amount of money was paid for a ransom to the kidnappers. He also expressed optimism that the bandits will release the remaining 11 kidnapped students still in captivity in no distant time. A total of 121 students of Bethel Baptist Secondary School in Chikun local government area of Kaduna State were abducted by bandits from their hostels on July 5th, 2021. The students were later released in batches after their parents reportedly paid ransom to their abductors. In Zamfara State, people are finding it difficult to access funds due to skeletal services the commercial banks are providing as a result of the shutdown of telecom services in the state with a view to curbing the activities of bandits and their collaborators. Some of the residents are asking government to allow commercial banks in the state to operate at full capacity, even if it is for half a day, to ease the hardship on them.
It's been 3 weeks since telecom services were cut off in Zamfara State to tackle the activities of bandits, but this has taken a toll on residents. Many find it difficult to make withdrawals from banking halls or use the automated teller and point-of-sale machines without telecommunication networks, compelling many to travel to neighboring states to carry out transactions. Banks that do manage to dispense contend with long queues.
I shall let me tell my parents if this will be.
Awam John is a youth corps member serving in Zamfara State. He's been finding it difficult to speak with his family back home due to the shutdown in telecom services. He's also appealing to the government to direct the commercial banks to work in full capacity to enable people access their funds to take care of their immediate needs.
We have more than 5 banks around. They should make provision so that people can use the ATM. You can see this ATM over here, it's not functioning. This ATM here is not functioning. You know, some persons don't even have money to eat. That's the truth. We need money, because without money you cannot run your daily transaction. So they should actually make the ATM machines like to be functional so that people can have access to funds.
But the state government is appealing to residents to be patient with the security measures and that it's aware of the inconveniences.
Government is not unaware of the hardship people are going through following the enforcement of the measures taken to curtail the activities of bandits and their collaborators. So government is pleading with the people to exercise more patience as the measures taken are yielding positive results.
The request by the state government for a shutdown in the telecom services was supposed to last for 2 weeks, That has now been extended indefinitely.
Officials of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, the NDLEA, have raided a hotel in Abuja, allegedly used for camping young ladies for commercial sex and the sale of hard drugs. A statement by the NDLEA says 4 persons, including 3 females and a male, were arrested when officials of the agency raided the hotel on Wednesday, September 21st. The agency says it has seized 3,300 kilograms of hard drugs and arrested at least 10 suspects from Abuja, Kadun, and Lagos in the last 1 week.
This property on number 30 Lobito Crescent in Wuse to Abuja looks like other residential buildings, but inside the premises it seems more like a hotel with an outer bar. Officials of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency say they acted on a tip-off and raided this facility on Wednesday, September the 21st, arresting some suspects with hard drugs.
We had an information about this place for a quite long time, and we mounted serious surveillance and developed an intelligence product to confirm that there are activities of drugs going on in this environment. And when we stung, we arrested some young ladies with quantities of propinol and paraphernalia of crack drugs, crack cocaine, which has been smoked already. As you could see when you just came in, we also found an empty bottle of benylin with codeine. And I've said that drugs like this are always, related to crimes like sexual violence and gender-based crimes. This is exactly what is happening here. We have a place that is turned like a brothel, a place that is supposed to be a residence, but it's turned to something else. And when we discovered this, we placed this place under serious investigation by the NDLEA.
Operatives of the NDLEA conducted journalists round the facility, which is already deserted. The agency says it will pursue prosecution of suspects arrested in this facility.
We discovered that this premises was being used by drug dealers right at the bar there to sell drugs to young ladies who are camped in the rooms we have taken you around, and we're walking around to ensure that this is not, those involved in this do not go scot-free.
In the last 1 week alone, the NDLEA says it has seized 3,300 kilograms of hard drugs and arrested 10 suspects from Abuja, Kaduna, Lagos, and Edo states.
As part of FSA, the Nigeria Police, in its fight against insurgency and other criminal acts, the Nigeria Police Trust Fund has announced plans to refurbish 3 helicopters belonging to the police. Speaking in Abuja, after inspecting the Nigeria Police hangar at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport and the temporary site of the Nigeria Institute of Police Studies in Jabi Life Camp, the Executive Secretary of the Nigeria Police Trust Fund, Mr. Ahmed Aliyu Sokoto, said the fund will refurbish other helicopters and assist the Nigeria Institute of Police Studies to relocate to its permanent site along the airport road in Abuja.
My main purpose of being here today is to see these police helicopters, which will be referred to the police as part of our measure to improve police operations. And for now, we are referring 3 Bell helicopters under our 2021 budget, and these are 4 1-2 Bell, 2 in number, and 206 1 in number, and the remaining ones will be looked into in our 2022 budgets.
In part two, after the break, Channels Media Group signs landmark memorandum of understanding with United Nations World Tourism Organization. Do join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us watching the news at 10, coming to you live from Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. As the country begins activities to mark its 61st independence anniversary, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says Nigeria's challenges will not overturn its vision to become great. After spending 86 days in captivity, 10 more students of Bethel Baptist Secondary School, Kaduna, regained their freedom. Channels Media Group signs landmark memorandum of understanding with United Nations World Tourism Organization. And Germans await final election results to choose successor to Europe's longest-serving leader, Chancellor Angela Merkel. President Muhammadu Buhari today arrived at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, in the early hours after his participation at the 76th United Nations General Assembly in New York. The president, who addressed the assembly on Friday, had used the opportunity to tell world leaders about the importance of supporting the enforcement of term limits for political leaders, especially in West Africa. The president has also used his address to call for more equitable distribution of vaccines to fight COVID-19, as well as other health challenges the world is faced with. And in Ogun State, the police command there is asking commercial motorcycle operators to begin registration of their motorcycles or risk them being confiscated. The state police public relations officer says the initiative is to curtail the spate of crime in the state. Operators, however, want the police to consult the database of their motorcycle registration rather than start the process all over again.
From October the 1st, 2021, which is just days away, unregistered motorcycle operators will not be allowed to do business in Ogun State. The State Police Command says the action becomes expedient to check the rate of crime. As a way forward, all motorcycle operator must register and be captured in a database across the 20 local government areas of the state. The police insist.
He decided, as a security measure, that all Okada riders in Ogun State has to be properly documented, they has to be registered, so that will form a sort of a database for every Okada riders we have in Ogun State, and that will enable us to apprehend any one of them that use the motorcycle to commit crime. Because motorcycle is an easy means of getting away from scene of crime, and because of this, the easiness of its movement, some people, rather than using it for the commercial purpose that the motorcycle is registered for, they have been using it to commit one crime or the other.
The leadership of the commercial motorcycle operators in the state, however, says it is aware of the new measure, which began in June. However, they're appealing that the enforcement be carried out with a human face.
You know, like everything you start here within our people, I don't know why we wait till there will be a kind of enforcement, because in my own view, what I really said was like maybe we have a compliance drive. But actually, what prompts police into this is that let's imagine a scheme that has started as far back as June 29, and up till now, the compliance level is still very, very low.
But that order does not seem to go down well with some motorcycle operators.
If there's anything that we want to register, every number of Okada in this state was registered in Ogun State. If they really want to know anything about the Okadas, they should go back to where the Okada was registered. That is where they can collect all the information about the riders. Asking the riders to register now, I think they are now putting a serious burden on every one of us.
The over 40,000 motorcycle operators are expected to pay 5,000 naira to register in any of the about 5,000 registration points in the state.
Channels Television and the United Nations World Tourism Organization are partners now in accelerating development in the tourism sector by promoting robust conversations as the sector recovers from the pandemic. The Memorandum of Understanding was signed today at Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, and our business correspondent who is there sent in this report.
As the world celebrates the 2021 World Tourism Day with the theme Tourism for Inclusive Growth, it's an opportunity for two giants to collaborate, come together and fight or move the sector forward in Africa and the world. We see a coming together of Channels Media Group and the United Nations World Tourism Organization, represented by the chairman of Channels Media Group and the Secretary General of United Nations World Tourism Organization. They meet in Abidjan here in Côte d'Ivoire, the host for the 2021 World Tourism Day. It's now become known that every 5 years the event is hosted in an African country, and so for 2021 it's being hosted in Côte d'Ivoire.
The relationship between Channels Television and the United Nations started in August 2015 when the media group first formalized its collaboration with the United Nations to promote its efforts and projects and enhance conversations around the Sustainable Development Goals.
The relationship is formalized as they sign the dotted lines and agree, after discussing, of course, on terms that would guide the relationship between United Nations World Tourism Organization and Channels Media Group. And the essence of this is to foster development in the tourism sector.
And nice friendship, because again, African continent needs to be more known outside of and out of the continent, and we see a lot of potential to support African tourism, to develop African culture, and we are starting, and I'm sure that via channels we can communicate better with
This is like the icing on the cake for us, because I love tourism. I like to travel a lot. And then the fact that we have to reset the button for tourism around the world, in the sense that global tourism has taken a hit arising from the pandemic that happened last year. So you rest assured that you have a very good partner in us, Channels TV, and we'll do everything possible to make sure that your objectives are met, using us, as a channel to reach the world with your message. So,
thank you. I will add one more.
It's a new dawn as this relationship is set to broaden discussions when it comes to tourism sector and enhance the developmental efforts in the sector, not just in Africa, but in the world. And it will always be memorable because it's the 2021 World Tourism Day celebration. So reporting here from Abidjan in Côte d'Ivoire, I'm E. John Mekwa for Channels Television News.
As part of the working tour of its intervention in the Northeast, the Northeast Development Commission has inaugurated one of the 3 bridges destroyed in the peak of the war against Boko Haram. The reconstruction comes as a great relief to communities that had until now gone through harrowing experiences.
The impact of the Boko Haram insurgency on Adamawa State was huge as it left death and destruction in its wake. Infrastructure, including roads, bridges linking towns and villages in neighboring Borno and the Republic of Cameroon, bore the brunt of the violence, making mobility a nightmare for commuters. A lot of work has gone into the repair of the bridges, and this one in Michigan is ready to be commissioned. Deputy Governor of Adamawa State, Crowther Seth, accompanied by officials of the NEDC, are welcomed and the Dilchim Bridge by leaders of Michika community.
This is the only road, federal road, that links to Borno State, Maiduguri, and it is a busy road. So with this now, we believe it is going to ease the means of transportation and it will cushion the effect of hardship on the people.
This is bridge number 1 of the project. It has kilometer 26 plus 500. We have other 2 bridges at Dilchim and Kurugandi. The total length of the road from Marabamubi to Madagali is 90 kilometers. The total project cost is 14.74 billion naira.
The managing director, NEDC Mohammed Al-Khali, calls on the contractor to hasten the completion of other bridges. It's a welcome intervention commended by the state government, even as the deputy governor of Adamawa State, Prabha said, commends the commission for the intervention.
With this bridge, a lot of things, most especially those things that are used to hinder the transportation of goods from here to other neighboring countries, it will come to an ease. We thank you very much. We are very grateful. And thank you very much.
Undoubtedly, the return of this bridge and the promise of others to follow will improve the quality of lives and add value to property in neighboring communities.
When the news at 10 returns, outgoing Director General of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, Dr. Chikwe Hekwazu, applauds Nigeria's efforts in the fight against COVID-19, says the nation has learned some key lessons in human and institutional capacity building. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news at 10. Here in Lagos, the state governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu today led members of his cabinet and guests to a Thanksgiving service in commemoration of Nigeria at 61 independence celebrations. During the church service, Mr. Sanwo-Olu insisted that the spirit of equity, justice and doing right is only fair, that in the spirit of equity, justice and doing right, it is only fair that Lagos State gets what it rightfully deserves, a position which lends credence to the state's position on the controversial VAT collection debate.
It's an early kickoff of events and activities ahead of Nigeria at 61 celebrations. The Lagos State Governor, his wife, accompanied by the state cabinet members, adjoining congregants here at the Chapel of Christ the Light for Thanksgiving to celebrate Nigeria at 61. The theme, Righteousness Exalts a Nation, sets the tone for the Bible readings for the service, dispensed by the Chief of Staff and the First Lady of the state.
Righteousness exalts a nation, but sins is a reproach to any people.
Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all, especially to those who are of the household of faith. Bless the reading of the Lord.
For the Lord God divine, in the name of the Lord.
By extension, the Assistant Bishop of Lagos Mainland in his sermon continued on the path of what righteousness is and what it represents when administered.
Indeed, we are all worried and concerned about what the future holds. But as a people of faith, we want to say too, that while we can rightly, justly be worried, but on the other hand, we know that God holds the future.
Shortly after that, Mr. Sanwo-Olu then leads his entourage to a round of Thanksgiving before making his brief speech.
How do we ensure that there's equity, there's fairness? And that's what we talk about, issues around VAT. We know and we believe that if Lagos gets more, we will do more. If Lagos can get a lot more, we will do a lot more.
In a few days from now, Nigeria turns 61. The call from today's service largely accentuates the need to embrace equity, justice, and fairness. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
The federal government of Nigeria has announced plans for Eurobond issuance in the international capital market. Last time Nigeria accessed the ICM was November 2018. Though through the Eurobond issuance, Nigeria is expected to raise no more than $6.2 billion. The Debt Management Office says the money raised will be used to finance various projects in the 2021 appropriation. But what worries some economists and other stakeholders is how these monies will be paid. Tonight, to assess the debt burden of the federal government is Babajide Ogusowo, our data and information consultant. Nice to have you here.
Good evening, Amarachi.
Yes, and so what have previously borrowed monies been used for? What facts do you have?
Lots of facts, but I'd like you to listen to this carefully, and that's because, like you had asked, whenever revenue keeps falling and expenditure keeps rising, then the deficit keeps growing. And when the deficit keeps growing, then the government will have to borrow more money. And when the government borrows more money, it will have to borrow even more money to repay the money it has borrowed. And so, that's what happens.
The domino effect.
Let me make myself clear. Since 2015 to 2020, in that 6-year period, the federal government of Nigeria has earned 23 trillion naira. You heard me right, 23 trillion naira. Well, more than half of that amount has been used to pay interest on debt. There are 3 reasons why this is important. The first reason is education, health, and agricultural sector within the last 6 years, 2015 to 2020. The money spent on these 3 sectors, based on the evidence of the Central Bank of Nigeria, 9 trillion naira. However, money spent, interest on debt service payments, 12 trillion naira. In other words, our obligation to debt is now higher than our obligation to education, health, and the agricultural sector. Fact 1. The second fact is, in the next 100 hours, Amarachi, Nigeria will be celebrating the 61st independence. And based on our debt burden, one of the things that will be on the lips of observers is that, is it an administrative independence that we're celebrating, or a financial independence? Because even the fact shows that between 2015 and 2020, that 6-year period, capital imported into the country, $77 billion. But 60% of this amount has come from 2 countries, the United States and the United Kingdom. And third and final, why are people shouting about Nigeria's debt burden? It's because the country as a whole owes 33 trillion naira. And that 33 trillion naira is being owed by not just the federal government, states, and the Federal Capital Territory, but the challenge of the federal government is, out of this 33 trillion naira, 27 trillion naira is being owed by the federal government.
So what does the borrowing trend then look like, especially debt servicing?
It depends. Let's take a look at what comes up in front of us, because then it allows us to clearly understand what is going on when it comes to debt servicing and debt trends. And if we take a look at the facts, here's what you'll notice. There's some good news and there's some bad news. Let's start with the bad news. Here is our domestic debt trends. In 2010, it was 4.5 trillion naira. By December 2015, 8.8 trillion naira. By December 2020, it had almost doubled to 16 trillion naira. What is in front of you is the debt, the domestic debt of the federal government. There's also the external debt portion. And if we take a look at the external debt, we also see those fast rising curve. External debt shows in December 2010, external debt was approximately 689 billion. It moved to 1.4 trillion naira 5 years after, and 5 years after, it has moved from 1.4 trillion naira to 11 trillion naira. The summation is, as at December 2020 last year, domestic debt 16 trillion naira, external debt 11 trillion naira, and that is the challenge. We've seen a sharp rise in domestic debt and in external debt. The good news is there are still some countries, many countries, that are still willing to give Nigeria a loan. Some other day we'll talk about the reason why these countries are still willing, despite our debt burden, to give us money. But that is good news. The good news is we still have the capacity to collect based on what other countries are offering us. The bad news is that our debt burden has significantly shot up within the last 5 years.
So very quickly, does the borrowing then outweigh the cost?
The question is, who is measuring and who is really counting? And what we've seen is we don't have that confidence that those in government are really studying these trends and looking at the cost. Let's take a look at what is in front of us, looking at revenue and how much is being spent on servicing debt. And we're not even talking about the principal repayment, just interest repayment. And what you'll see is that at 2015, debt service over revenue was 31%. In simple terms, the government earned 3.4 trillion naira in 2015 and spent just a little over 1 trillion naira servicing debt. Let's fast forward to last year. The government earned 3.9 trillion naira and spent 3.2 trillion naira, 82%, paying interest, just servicing debt, interest payment on monies we've borrowed. And the trends for this year seem to even be worse than 82%, which means that we are soon going to be, if the trends continue, all the money the government is earning will be used to pay debt. And in the final analysis, let's remember the words of Benjamin Franklin. He who goes a borrowing goes...
I'm sorry. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
The pleasure is all mine.
I look forward to that conversation on why countries are still lending.
Sometime soon we'll do that.
Of course. Thanks again. And Nigeria has learned some key lessons in human and institutional capacity building as part of its response to the COVID-19 pandemic. That's according to the outgoing Director General of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, Dr. Chikwe Ihekwazu. Dr. Ihekwazu, who resumes as the Assistant Director General of the World Health Organization on November 1st this year, says because of how the pandemic arrived and its widespread impact, Nigeria had to quickly scale up its response in training and collaboration between institutions. He, however, says there is still some way to go.
We have a responsibility to really engage with our political leadership and provide them the political capital in investing in health, right? Not just sell health as something they need to do out of the goodness of their hearts for the people down there, but to link health with economic development. And I think the experience of this pandemic has made it so clear that if we don't address, there's nothing, at least that I can remember, in our country's history that has brought the country to a halt like this pandemic did last year. So if we recognize that and recognize the losses in income to states, to businesses, then we will completely change how we think about investment in health, public health and healthcare delivery. The second important lesson is we have an incredible pool of talent in Nigeria. You know, up till today, right, every night you see the numbers we publish, you know. I can't think of any other index where data is published every night in Nigeria. This is just one example of a set of activities that is driven by a fairly young workforce. They do this, they have the technology to do it, they develop this, but that is not just the technology. They stay up every night, do this number crunching from different states, validate it with the states, get it approved and announce every night, right? And the same small miracles, literally, have happened in so many parts of this agency where I call these guys together, I say, guys, this is our problem. Go and think about it and come back with a solution. And almost always, a solution comes back and we then deliver. So in a way, if you come into the public sector naturally and you look around and you see people sometimes sitting around, you think that there's nothing in them to deliver, right? That this atmosphere doesn't allow delivery and is not enabled to deliver. And that in itself is a self-fulfilling cycle of destruction, right? And my experience has been that
with the right incentives, the right motivations, you can actually get Nigerians to go over and beyond to deliver at extraordinary levels. So that's the second point. The third point is the use of technology, right? We've got to move our public sector institutions out of this manual way of operating.
You can watch the full interview with Dr. Chikwe Hiekwazu on Newsnight. It airs tomorrow, Monday, September 27th, 2021 at 9 p.m. And beyond our shores now, international partners need to begin to consider Haiti as equal rather than a beneficiary nation to spur its development and growth. The thoughts of the country's former ambassador to the UK and Northern Ireland, whom I spoke to earlier today, on the recent migrant crisis at the US-Mexico border, where thousands of Haitians try to enter into the United States. While he acknowledges that the United Nations has a right to determine who it lets into its country, Haitian refugees still need to be treated with respect, he says.
Lately, about 2 weeks ago, I came back from Haiti. I had an opportunity and a privilege to visit the ravaged South, where you are seeing women and children sleeping standing up under tarps because their home have been destroyed and they don't have the means to rebuild yet. When I look all that's been happening with Haiti lately, I am thinking Haiti cannot continue to be the way it is right now. Haiti cannot continue to be depending upon foreign aid. Aid is not the way forward for Haiti. Our friends in the international community need to start looking at us through a different set of lenses. We, Haitians, need to start changing the narrative. And at the same time, it is important that Haiti start reassessing its relationship with its friends, its relationship with its partners, in a way that will be adjusted, that will benefit Haiti moving forward. When I look at all this thing, this is what I'm thinking. This cannot continue the way it has been going for ages.
You can watch the full interview with Ambassador Pilar on Diplomatic Channel. It airs tomorrow, Monday, September 27th at 8:30 p.m. on Sky UK 518 and at 11:30 p.m. on DSTV 420. Germany's SPD leader Olaf Scholz has told supporters he is delighted with the party's showing in today's general elections. Exit polls suggest the SPD is leading with 25.7% of votes, with the CDU-CSU coalition following closely behind with 24.5%. German Social Democratic Party candidate Olaf Scholz says he sees a mandate to govern for his party after exit polls put the SPD first by a narrow margin in Sunday's national election. The election results with the SPD leading with 25.7%, he said, was a mandate to ensure that everything that had been talked about the election campaign was implemented. Germany's CDU-CSU conservatives and their Social Democrat rivals were virtually tied according to exit polls, leaving open which of them will lead the next government as Angela Merkel prepares to stand down after 16 years in power. The conservative CDU Chancellor candidate Armin Laschet says his party could not be satisfied with the results, but that he will do everything possible to build a conservative-led government. He also said this will be the first time Germany will have a government with three partners. The CDU-CSU bloc won 25% of votes, their weakest result in a post-war federal election, and a par with the centre-left Social Democrat. Supporters were disappointed with the result and said they had to admit that they had lost support. Meanwhile, supporters of the Greens cheered and applauded after the exit polls were announced, showing them on track for 14.7% of the vote for the national election. And the business-friendly FDP flattered the Greens, calling for a new start. Germany's federal parliament, the Bundestag, is made up of at least 598 seats. When Germans go to the polls, they get 2 votes to elect member MPs to those seats. The first is to elect a local MP in 299 constituencies. The second is based on a different system, proportional representation. The overall makeup of parliament must reflect the results of the second vote. To form a government, a party or a coalition must have a majority in the Bundestag. Anthony Joshua has confirmed he wants to run it back with Alexander Usyk after the Ukrainian ripped away his world titles with a masterful performance at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. The Ukrainian dominated much of the fight, rocking Joshua in the 3rd and 7th round and won on all 3 judges' scorecards, 117 to 112, 116 to 112, 115 to 113. Joshua and his camp have 30 days to activate the rematch clause.
Well done to the winner, and we'll be back again. Get back into training. Great 12 rounds. Great experience as well in the ring. And we progress from this point on. I've got an opportunity to go back to the drawing board, so I can't go back and sulk. That's wasting time. I'm going back to look at ways I can improve straight away. I've already been watching the fight and figuring out, I could have done that better already in my mind anyway. So, yeah, I'm not too bothered. But what I'm bothered about is how much better I can get. That's where I'm putting my energy. I'm not putting my energy into sulking. I'm putting my energy into ways I can improve.
Meanwhile, Britain's Lawrence Okolie is turning his attention to a potential unification bout with IBF world champion Maurice Bridis after retaining his world cruiserweight title with a comfortable 3rd-round knockout of Dylan Prasovic. Fighting on the Joshua Usyk scorecard, Okolie floored the Montenegrin with a punishing right hand in the 2nd round before a left-hand body shot finished the contest in the 3rd. It was the unbeaten 28-year-old's 17th victory and his 14th by knockout. Back home, Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike has charged Nigerians to take personal responsibility to ensure that the values they will entrench better society are strengthened as the country marks 61 years of independence amid an endemic social-cultural problem and ethno-religious intolerance. Governor Nyesom Wike stated this during an interdenominational church service in commemoration of the nation's independence anniversary at St. Paul's Anglican Cathedral, Jobu, Port Harcourt. The River State Governor believes Nigerians should have good reason to celebrate the country's 61 if the electoral system is made a little stronger by introducing the transmission of election results through electronic means.
We had a state because of an individual, 61 years old child. You discriminate against some people because of their religion, because of where they come from. 61 years old. That's Nigeria. And we're clapping hands, Nigeria, Nigeria, Nigeria. 61 years old. Where is the legislature? 61 years old. Where is the legislature? The legislature that cannot think A legislature, everything they bring is right. A legislature that cannot say that Nigeria has gotten to the edge of conducting a free and fair election. A legislature that will close their eye anytime they bring money, borrow, you borrow. Legislature that wants this money we are giving you to borrow, where is it? Where are you applying? 61 years old. The giant of Africa. Giant.
And one more security story before we close. Gunmen suspected to be armed bandits have allegedly attacked a joint military base in Sabon Birni local government area of Sokoto State, killing an unspecified number of military personnel in the process. Villagers and security sources confirmed the attack took place in the early hours of Friday. According to residents, the bandits came in large numbers and started shooting sporadically. A source did not, however, confirm if the said military camp is the same with the Bukusuma camp in Sabon Birni local government area. And the main news again, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo said Nigeria's challenges will not overturn its vision to become great as the country begins activities marking its 61st independence anniversary. And that's it on the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani.